We do understand that the flight with the Springboks has just landed. These are live visuals coming to you from the East London in the Eastern Cape. I do understand that we have our sports editor, Vata Ngobeni, who is standing by. Vata, this is something that we have been seeing happening across the country since the Springboks landed, winning the 4th World Cup title. This is obviously a significant moment, especially because we have some of our top players coming from the Eastern Cape.
Yeah, good evening, Heidi. Yes, as we see, the Springboks have finally landed at King Paulo Airport here in East London. As you said, a lot of the players come from this province. It's called the home of the legends. Siya Kolisi, the captain of the team, comes from the province itself. Rassi Erasmus, director of rugby, comes from the province. Mzwandile Stick, who's the assistant coach, comes from the province. Makazole Mapimpi comes from the province. Lucanio Am comes from the province. Manili Bok is also from the province. Charles Vessels, the manager of the team, also comes from the province. There's a lot of rich rugby history that comes from the Eastern Cape. It is the home of black rugby. A huge focus has been on honouring the former players who've played rugby, especially the black players. We know that obviously South Africa has had a very, very divided past when it comes to rugby and how the Springboks were used as a tool to divide this country. It is now a team that is uniting South Africa. It started in 1995 by the great Nelson Mandela, who also hails from this province itself. And they went on to 2007 under the presidency of Thabo Mbeki, who also comes from this province, less than 100 kilometers away from this airport itself. And we've seen that under President Cyril Ramaphosa, the team has now captured 2 World Cup titles in 2019 out in Japan and obviously now in France. So, yeah, Heidi, there's a lot of excitement. People had gathered here from as early as 2 o'clock. In anticipation for the arrival of the world champions. They were still busy on their parade out in Durban. There, a lot of the players as well, the likes of Eben Elizabeth, they play for the Sharks franchise. The likes of Bongi Mbonambi, the likes of Lucanio Am, those are players that play for Sharks. Grant Williams. So they had a moment as well with their own people. And we saw the streets of Durban. They were packed to capacity. People had come out in their thousands to again welcome the world champions. And now the heroes are on the final stop of this four-city tour, which will be East London. They will be going from East London, from the Garden Court Hotel there, and they'll be going to the City Hall and obviously to Mdantsane and finishing off back again at the City Hall before the team disperses with all the players going to their various franchises. Some are based in England, some are based in Ireland, some are based in France, and some are based out in Japan, with the first sprinkling of players also based here in South Africa. They'll be reporting straight to duty, especially those based in Ireland and South Africa will be going to their franchises because the United Rugby Championship has already begun. We are seeing the SAPS, they've got a small regiment here to welcome the Springboks. We're seeing a lady out on the tarmac there with the South African flag. There's a lot of strong security around the airport itself, a ring of steel with the South African police service providing security here at the airport. And, you know, it's been quite a joyous moment, Heidi, here at the airport. From the time we arrived from Cape Town this afternoon, people have been singing. We saw the Premier, Oscar Mabuyana. We saw, you know, the Premier, the MEC for Sport was also here. They were flying off to Germany. And they had a moment as well to greet some of the people that have gathered here at the airport. So yeah, it's quite a joyous occasion out here at King Paulo Airport. Heidi?
Absolutely. I feel a bit sad that I'm not wearing green today. I've been trying to wear green ever since we won the Rugby World Cup. But I just want to ask you, Vata, in terms of whether or not Captain Siya Kolisi will be present here today and tomorrow, because we do know that he was not in KwaZulu-Natal. A number of players have not been present, and that's obviously for various reasons. But I'm just wondering if you know anything about Siya Kolisi's presence and attendance in the Eastern Cape.
Yes, Heidi, we have been given the confirmation by Saru that Siya will be in East London tomorrow. He is attending a family wedding. His brother-in-law is getting married to none other than South Africa's golden girl, Tatjana Schoenmaker, who is Olympic champion and world record holder. So he's out in the Western Cape at the wedding there. But he will definitely be here tomorrow to partake in that parade on its last day. And there are other players as well, the likes of Marvin Ori, who is already reported for duty out in France for his team as well. So, you know, one has to understand, Heidi, the players have been away from home for a very, very long time. It's been almost 2 months that they've been away from home on national duty, and a lot of them have got to now go back to their clubs, and some obviously have got family commitments, personal commitments to attend to. But the bulk of the squad is here. The bulk of the squad is really, really soaking up and lapping up the excitement and accolades from their fans. And the Springboks have not shied away from the fact that, you know, in France, they were able to get over the line, especially in that quarterfinal against host nation France by 1 point, the semi-final against England by 1 point, and obviously that final against the All Blacks, their greatest rivals, by 1 point. They said they were inspired by the millions and millions of South Africans that were sending them messages on social media, sending them videos and so on. And those videos and social media messages were being beamed on television screens at their hotel. So, you know, again, this is again an acknowledgement, and the players are just coming out as tired as they are. A lot of the players have lost their voices, and you can just see, as jaded as they are, they're still waving to the crowds and smiling and hoisting that trophy that they call Bill, the Webb Ellis Trophy, and showing it off to their adoring fans. So yes, Heidi, Siya was not in Durban, but definitely Siya will definitely be here in East London on this last leg of their parade.
Exactly, Vata. And, you know, I just want to also speak about the importance and significance of Captain Siya Kolisi being in the Eastern Cape today, as much as he has family commitments, given that he comes from the Eastern Cape, and probably really inspiring many. I mean, the visuals that we are showing you on our screen now, the one is of the aircraft that the Springboks were inside. We know that they have disembarked, and they're probably going through the doors now to greet the fans. And the other screen that we're showing you is also part of the fans and, you know, South Africans really coming out. But you also see young boys. I think they're dressed in their school uniform. I could be mistaken, but you can imagine what inspiration so many of them have taken from Siya Kolisi and a number of other players, actually, because when you hear the stories of a lot of our rugby stars, you hear of the difficulties and the struggles, especially around the transformation in rugby and the sport itself, and how much they have brought that change and inspired so many.
Definitely, Heidi. I think it's a very poignant moment to have the Springboks have their last stop in the Eastern Cape. As you said, a lot of young kids are taking a lot of inspiration from Siya Kolisi. He comes from those dusty streets of Ezwide in Gqeberha. And yes, there's been a lot of unhappiness around the fact that the Springboks have not gone to Gqeberha, because that is the home of Mzondo Stick, that is the home of Siyamthanda Kolisi, the home of Charles Wessels, and a stone throw away from Gqeberha is a little town called Dispatch, and that is where the director of Rugby, Rassie Erasmus, comes from. Unfortunately, Heidi, they could not, touch down in every single city and town and village in this country. As much as they would have loved to, they couldn't have. But you speak again of the struggles of the people of the Eastern Cape and struggles of many people across the country. But this is the home of black rugby. You go across this province, you go to towns like Ekomani, you go to towns, like James Talata, you go to the likes of Mtata, you go to Ngamakwe, so many, you go to Epedi. There are so many young boys as well who don't know where they're going to get young boys and girls actually, who don't know where they're going to get their next meal from. Just like Siya Kolisi didn't know back in the days where he was going to get his next meal from. However, this game called rugby liberated him. This game called rugby took him to the highest stage, in global sport. And we saw him hoisting the trophy in Tokyo, and then we saw him again 4 years later, which was last week, hosting the trophy in Paris. And this is what this game can do for people. And it's so important, Heidi, that the government makes sure that they invest in infrastructure across the province, in the rural areas, in the townships, and also beef up on the infrastructure that already exists within the boundaries of the towns and cities. You got stadiums here like the old Basil Canyon. You got stadiums here like the Jan Smuts Stadium here in East London, and those have been left derelict. And kids here struggle to participate in sport. You've got the Joan Harrison swimming pool right here in East London. One of the ladies who swam, at the Olympics for South Africa back in the days. And those facilities have been abandoned, left derelict, and the kids do not have an opportunity to take up swimming, to take up rugby, take up tennis, whatever sporting course that they are. And it becomes imperative now that these municipalities and the provincial government really start investing. As you can see, Heidi, there are some of the management disembarking from the aircraft. We'll be seeing a lot of the players now also following suit. And we've seen that they're the SAPS regiment. They're going to have a guard of honor for the team itself as they come off the plane and come through into the arrivals terminal here at King Palo Airport. Heidi?
It's so heartwarming to see that, especially because, you spoke about earlier on about how we won with 1 point, in the last 3 matches, and they literally gave South Africans a heart attack. I will never stop telling the story about how my watch was telling me that I have an unusual heartbeat because of the anxiety from all these
Heidi,
matches.
I need to say this, Heidi. Heidi, here's one of the sons of the Eastern Cape, Lukhanyo. He's just gotten off the stairs, and he literally lives a stone throw away from King Paulo Airport, that is towards the old King Williamstown. So he's disembarked, and we're seeing the likes of Oxenche. He's also getting off there, the man from the Free State, from Tabanchu. And we've seen the players. There's, I think, Stephen Kitsoff. Mind me, Heidi, I'm a bit far from where the aircraft is, so I'm struggling to see some of the players, but they're the players. And they're going to be spending a little bit of time on the tarmac before they go through that guard of honor. And yes, Heidi, my heart is pumping very hard at the moment, and it's pumped because it's just pure joy at seeing these heroes of South Africa, traversing this country and just giving thanks to their fans who have supported them unconditionally, in the build-up to the World Cup itself, even the games that they had lost. And they went to play warm-up games against Wales, beat them there, played the All Blacks in London, beat them there with the record score, the biggest defeat ever handed to the All Blacks by any team in history, and that was the Springboks. It was 35-7. And they went into the World Cup, Heidi, they took the toughest route by any team ever to win a World Cup. They had to play the likes of Scotland, which were in the top 6 in World Rugby. Then they went on to play Ireland, and they lost to Ireland, which was then the number 1 team in the world. They played Romania, a team that they played in 1995 at the World Cup, which was hosted here in South Africa. They played Tonga as well, and the Tongans really gave them a run for their money. And they went into the quarterfinal knowing that they would either play New Zealand or they would play France. And as the lottery would roll it out for them, they had to play the host nation, which was France. And we know what happened in that game, as you were saying earlier on, Heidi. Most South Africans had their hearts in their mouths. But the Springboks were able, to get over the line by 1 point before facing England. And even in that game as well, a team that they'd beaten in Tokyo 4 years ago in that World Cup final, when England thought that their job was done after beating the All Blacks in the semi-final, and they were surprised. And it was in that game that one of the sons of the Eastern Cape, Makazole Mapimpi, became the first South African to score a try in a World Cup final. All the other World Cup final triumphs by the Springboks had come through penalties. And in that game, Makazole Mapimpi receiving a pass from Lukhanyo Am, who also comes from Once, just down the road from here. And they scored, and there were two guys who had played for the Border Rugby team, a team that's based here in East London. As you can see now, the players going through there, all of them with their caps, written champions, and they are being led, as you can see there, by Ibn Etzebeth, the man now known as Elizabeth. You can understand, Heidi, the players are tired. You can see them, they're really tired. But I'm sure there's going to be big smiles. Even Lindsay Ware, the technical analyst, comes from East London, an old Selborne College boy. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of emotion, I think, once they get into the arrivals hall. And we've got our Ronald Masinde down there, and Ntlangani, bringing you the guys those visuals with the fans singing. And you can hear the song there, Zube Mtanaka Mama, Ufigizol Mtanaka Mama, that means that Mtanaka Mama, my mother's child, has arrived yesterday. Their boys now have arrived. Their mother's child has arrived today, here at their home, the home of the legends in the Eastern Cape. Heidi.
Absolutely, Vatsa. You know, when you were speaking about what is being sung in arrivals, you know, it literally gives you goosebumps. And I think here are these visuals that Vatsa was alluding to. We do understand that the Springboks have landed in East London, in the Eastern Cape. We do know that they have disembarked, and they are now entering the airport, of course, to meet the fans and engage with them as they have been waiting there, we've been told, since very early this afternoon. I'm not sure if my colleague Ronald Masinde can hear me, but Ronald, I can only imagine how electric the energy is in that airport at the moment, especially given the history of rugby in that province.
Talk to me. All right, Heidi, coming to us live now as we are seeing the Springboks. They are about to collect their bags. An exciting time for so many Springbok supporters who have been waiting for several hours to see the 2023 Rugby World Cup champions appear here. It's been a grueling few days for the Springboks, a tour that started in Pretoria, moved to Johannesburg, Soweto, Cape Town, Durban, and now tomorrow it's East London's turn to see the Springboks. The tour bus will start at around 10 o'clock in the morning, and just to give a bit of context to this actual tour, it's going to be 4 grueling days for the Springboks. I mean, this is a team that has been at the World Cup, preparing for the World Cup, playing matches at the World Cup, 21 long weeks, and some of the players understandably are not here in East London, given that they also have their own commitments, some of them going through rehabilitation. But what we are seeing in the background, a lot of dancing, a lot of cheers from the Springboks. We are seeing Zwanile Stick, the Springbok assistant coach. He's of course from Gqeberha, a hometown boy. Lukhanyo Am in the background as well. And the supporters, they are waiting with bated breath, Heidi, to see whether or not they will be mingling with the Springboks. A lot of them brought their pens. They are hoping to get autographs. Others showing signs of saying that the likes of Siya Kolisi must be voted as president. So a lot of excitement building up as we wait for the Springboks. Of course, when they arrive here, Heidi, they will be taken, escorted by 2 buses to their hotel in East London. Tomorrow morning, they wake up bright and early for a press conference at 8 o'clock, and then the tour bus starts at 10 o'clock. Of course, East London will be hosting this tour bus, and there's been a lot of talk about why Gqeberha, for example, is not part of this tour bus, but SA Rugby making it very clear that this is a shortened trip, and understandably so, given the time that the Springboks have spent, the grueling games that they participated in at the World Cup, beating Scotland in the first encounter. But of course, they later on lost to Ireland, a very close game. And then, of course, who can forget those one-point victories in the quarterfinals against France, beating England in the semi-finals, and then the All Blacks in that all-important final. So we are hoping to see whether or not the Springboks will be mingling with the crowd. A lot of the people who are here want to speak. They want to see the likes of Mzwandile Stick, the likes of Eben Etzebeth that we are seeing in the background, Lucanio Am, as well as Dwayne Vermeulen.
I'm not seeing Handré Pollard, Ronald. Maybe it's just because he's probably getting his bag. I'm not sure. And the reason why I'm asking about him is because he has now been dubbed as the husband of the nation, because everybody's saying how he is the one that just did not miss any of those kicks. And he basically charmed South Africans and really captivated our hearts. I'm not sure if he's there. Are you able to spot him?
I must admit I am battling to hear you, but just to talk a bit more about this particular trip. I mean, we know that the Buffalo City Metro as well, they've been in meetings trying to organize such an important occasion, given that a lot of the people from the Eastern Cape will descend in East London. But for the Springboks, this is a significant occasion for them. A lot of the players hail from the Eastern Cape. I mentioned, of course, Lucanio Am earlier on, and Makazola Mampipi, whose tournament had to be cut short due to injury. He hails from Cholomna here in the Eastern Cape, as well as, of course, Siya Kolisi and Rassi Erasmus, the director of rugby, who hails from Dispatch. But what we do know, Heidi, is that when the Springboks arrive or come through to fetch their bags, they will definitely go through. There's a lot of people outside, at least a few thousand people, also not just in this area that we are in here at the King Paulo Airport, but also outside. And I can tell you that traffic will also be badly affected as we try to get out of the airport. You could swear, Heidi, that today is the day where this trophy tour is taking place, but people are just here to see the box, and I can tell you that the numbers will be a lot of people are expected tomorrow. And this tour bus as well, there were changes of routes, given that some people were quite concerned that Mdantsane, for example, the second biggest township in the country, was initially excluded from this trip. I can tell you the people of Mdantsane, as well as the people from Duncan Village, will also get to see the Springboks going around, and obviously at the tour bus. And we're also hoping to get our own seat at the tour bus to bring the viewers rolling coverage here on ENCA.
Absolutely, Ronald, and just hearing the cheers and screams of people really just explains to you how excited everybody is. People have really come out in their numbers. We are currently showing you two screens at the moment. The one is of South Africans on the outside of the airport, and the one is of the Springboks now finally receiving their luggage and making their way through the airport as they have just landed in East London in the Eastern Cape. They will be probably engaging with some of the fans. Let's actually just listen in to some of what's going on.
Yes. And here the Springboks have arrived. JJ Fredericks, the logistics manager as well, is here. Yes, Franco Mostert, Sos, the man that they call Sos, is here. And then there's another child of the soil of the Eastern Cape. Zwandi the Stick, Coach Zwandi the Stick. Good to be home, Zwandi the Stick.
Happy to be home, man. Happy to be home. Very special for the people of South Africa. It's good for us to celebrate with them.
I know a lot of people are saying that you want to go back to Gqeberha, but you have touched on South African soil. And
it's still my home. Eastern Cape is still my home, so I'm happy to be home.
Thank you very much, Coach Stick. Yeah, and that's assistant coach Zwandi the Stick. We're struggling to speak the players now, but here, bringing the visuals, there is Damian Willemse, the great oxen chair, the man who scrummed England out of the World Cup. That's oxen chair. Franco Mostert there with his family. And this coach, as one of the assistant coaches, Dion Davids. Lucanio Am is there, who comes from down the road, along with Lindsay Weyer. Lindsay is one of the boys from East London, an old Selborne College boy. I'm sure he's happy. His second World Cup winners medal. We've got Vincent Koch. We've got the likes of Zintzika Tashe. Zintzika Tashe is the operations manager for the Springboks. He's also a child from the Eastern Cape as well. His family's from the Eastern Cape. And there is Ibn Itzabit as well. The man dubbed Elizabeth by this country. And Stephen Kitsoff, the man that they call Spicy Plum, is off to Ulster. He had captained the Stormers to their first URC title last year. And here they are, the players are now they're going out they're going to acknowledge their fans. This is a wonderful moment. This is a wonderful moment. They still have the energy to acknowledge their fans. And there is Ibn with his daughter. Another star of the Springboks, Kurtley Arendse, also going to go put in his bags in the bus.
These are, of course, live visuals coming to you out of East London in the Eastern Cape. We do understand that the Springboks have, of course, landed, and they will be starting their tour tomorrow, bright and early, in the Eastern Cape, going to a number of towns to show their love and, of course, that trophy to the various fans. Our colleagues, Ronald Masinda as well as Vatan Ngobeni, are, of course, there. They did try to engage with a number of the players, but at this point, it's a bit of a struggle. One can understand why. Interesting to see that the players decided to actually move over and try and go and engage with some of their fans, really acknowledging them. There was an engagement with the Springboks earlier this week where the question was asked, what did you miss most about South Africa and home? And the answer was actually the fans, the South Africans, the spirits and the support that they had been receiving, which is really what pushed them through. I mean, the last 3 matches that the Springboks played against France, England and New Zealand were really giving South Africans a heart attack, because we won all of those matches by just 1 point. But of course, a win is a win. And this is what has gotten South Africa to win the 4th Rugby World Cup title. Never been done before. Siya Kolisi, the captain, who is from the Eastern Cape, of course, having won 2 of those World Cup titles. A really beautiful and uniting moment for South Africans, seeing everybody from every corner of South Africa really coming out and showing their support and love to the Springboks. You know, there's so much that goes wrong in this country, but we can definitely rely on the Bokke, because they have definitely come through for us and really shown us that love and support. And the fact that we are capable of doing so much. So these are just live visuals coming from the Eastern Cape. Let's just take some of that in.